I'm Lucia Lucas, and I will be singing Lily Elba in Lily Elba next summer at the Santa Fe Opera. Lily Elba was a painter of Danish landscapes and was married to Gerda Wegner, who was also a painter, except of portraits and people. The reason why her story is so significant is because she was actually one of the first people to undergo what we now understand as gender affirmation surgery.
I wanted to write an opera about the Stonewall Uprising. So I reached out to Lucia Lucas, who in the teens, the 20-teens, was coming to prominence in Europe as a major artist who was a trans woman. And as we became friends over time, I remembered the story of Lily Elba, and I realized this is a really strong operatic character and a very strong story for opera.
We went back to original sources from her time because there was a lot written about her to construct this story for the opera and to recreate her life as best we could. Lucia Lucas served as dramaturg, and I've learned a lot from her in constructing the story and understanding what Lily Elba might have gone through.
The story means so much to me. This is the first large-scale opera about a trans person, written for a trans person, and we get to see not just the happy moments and not just the sad moments, but the complex moments, the moments of negotiation.
John Crosby commissioned me to write my first opera ever for Santa Fe. It was an unforgettable experience. It was one of the greatest joys of my life. And working with Mr. Crosby, with John, he was a mentor for me.
I was an apprentice in 2008 and 2009, and this is my first time coming back as a principal artist, and it's an honor to come back as a title role and for an American premiere. It's such a wonderful, I guess, full circle moment.
Lucia Lucas, Sylvia D'Aramo. It will be the 30th anniversary of Tobias's first opera, Emmeline. Putting that all together at the fantastic Santa Fe Opera is like a dream come true for us.
Tobias, you composed Lily Elba. So what inspired you to turn Lily Elba's story into an opera?
Two things. Mm-hmm. One, I'm always looking for new opera subjects. And in 2015, I saw the film The Danish Girl, which is about Lily Elba. And this film is based on a book of the same name, which was based on the same material that we used to write the opera, mostly Lily's own memoirs. But when I came out of the theater, I remember thinking to myself, boy, this life is really an opera. But how would you ever do it? How could it ever be done? Then a few years later, I was at the time artistic director of the Tulsa Opera, and I was casting Don Giovanni, and I met Lucia, who auditioned for me, and cast her as Don Giovanni. She became the first trans woman to play on the American stage, opera stage, in 2018. But around 2018, we became friends during this process. I remembered the story of Lily Elba, and I asked her if she wanted to play Lily Elba, and she, without hesitating, said, "Yes, I do. That's my story." Her story, the trajectory of her life, and the love story between Lily and Gerda really makes it into a very, almost, it's actually a very traditional opera in that sense. She's an operatic heroine in many of the same ways that Butterfly is, or Tosca, or Violetta. I'm a traditionalist as a composer, so I write arias with soaring melodies and music that is capable of being taken home by the audience and remembered.
Yeah, speaking of that, what was your process for giving like musical shape to Lily's self-discovery and transformation?
Well, Lily has a theme. As soon as she enters the art gallery, we hear Lily's theme, and that threads like a leitmotif throughout the entire opera, and it changes. She's already begun her transition. When she appears as Lily, that's when we first hear her music. Her theme changes with her over the course of the opera. So the music that announces her entrance early on in the opera becomes the music of the final aria of Act One, her death aria, but it changes with her emotions.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, the register, the whole feeling of it, even though it's the same leitmotif.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And Lucia, you wore multiple hats in this opera. You were singing as Lily, and you were also the dramaturg. So what did each of those roles allow you to bring to Lily Elba?
As a dramaturg, I was preparing to hand off raw ideas to my performer self. I mean, of course, it's like talking with Tobias and Arie, but still having the idea in my head, well, I'm actually eventually going to have to perform this and sing this. So as a dramaturg, trying to make it nice for myself, like in the thing with just putting Lily in the score, it just makes it easier. Where I definitely don't need to see Lily's name before she transitions, because that's a hard reality of life, right? And this is something that we talked about, is like when you come out, and eventually maybe you do a legal name change, right? Well, it takes a lifetime until you stop getting mail that has the old name on there. Like that's just a reality of it, and every single time you see that, you're like, but that's not me, and that's maybe a previous version, maybe not even, that's somebody who I had to be at that time. And so I guess I made it I was hoping that we could make it as easy as possible for me, the singer, eventually, so that I can just do my singing job once the rehearsal comes. Which is hard enough reliving these moments,
All of the libretto, which Lucia is referring to, was carefully vetted between Arie and Lucia, so he would sometimes say, "Well, would she feel this? Would she feel that? Can we say this? Can we say that? And is it true to your experience?"
Yeah, over 5 years, really. And I'm guessing that even on this production, if there was something that needed to be changed, I'm sure that it would be adjusted too. Like in that way, it's sort of a living piece, where we're trying to do it as authentically as possible. Of course, like it's our lens from now, looking at Lily 100 years ago, and using a lot of our terminology to help understand her story.
I wanted to mention that I don't see this opera as, yes, it's about the trans experience, but it's not only about the trans experience. It has a larger framework, a larger view. So it's about our experience too, because the opera, through the words and music, and the singing, and everything else, it gives us the space and the opportunity to feel what another human being who might be different from us in some ways is feeling, and for us to realize that we are all human. I thought a lot about this during the composition, about I think Gandhi said, all men are brothers. So taking the gender out of that statement, I say we are all siblings. And that, for me, is the takeaway of this opera. And that, for me, is the hope that once people see it, they'll want to see it again. Because Lily has made a decision that is going to change the course of the her entire life and the entire story. Just as Tosca makes a decision to kill Scarpia, that's going to change her entire life and lead to her own end. Or Violetta making a big decision to let her lover go. I see Lily's life very much in those kind of terms, and I think it's important for people to realize that musically, I see my music in that same tradition, so that the music gives people an emotional catharsis that gives them this new character to live with for their whole lives. People, once they discover Tosca or Violetta or Butterflies, they then live with that character their whole lives, and it changes their lives for the better.
So I want to talk about Gerda a little more. So she's such an important figure in this story, and not just as Lily's wife, but also as the artist that makes her visible. So what did you both come to understand about Gerda and Lily's love?
Tobias could talk about this just as easily as I could, but this is a love story. This is a love story, and it's almost like a missed connections love story, And at the very beginning, we see this beautiful relationship of two people who are just like kids in love, even though they've been together for a while, They're so playful, they're so fun, and they just absolutely love each other, and it's like souls. It's not like, oh yeah, man and wife or anything like that. No, it's just two kids having fun, and they just love each other so much. And one of the tragedies of this opera is that I think it's Lily's fault, but Lily can't ever just pause and look around and see how good her life is. Because if we stop the story at so many different points before they drift apart, we have this loving relationship where Gerda is inspired by Lily. Lily is her muse. Like, she goes from being like a pretty good painter to being stunning. Yeah. From art critics being like, yeah, okay, to being like, wow, who is that? She's like, that's Lily, that's my muse. It's funny because Lily's kind of traditional. She's like, well, women do this and they do this and they have husbands and they, like, she has, for her time, she has an idea of what women do and how women are. And it's almost like she's trying to do these things. And she's like, okay, get a husband, have a baby, and then at the end.
She also stopped painting. She'd been a successful painter herself. And as soon as she transitioned, she stopped and said, Lily doesn't paint. Einar painted. Lily doesn't paint. Wow. And you look back at that period, and women artists, people didn't bring up their children to become women artists 100 years ago. It was rare. So it's understandable that her perspective was very different from our modern day women.
She was fine with Gerda being a painter. But
Gerda,
but she was like, yeah, but women don't do that. But Gerda did.
Yeah.
Gerda. The thing about Gerda is that she wanted to stay with Lily. Even though Lily was being herself, it didn't matter. She was in love with Lily, and Lily had always been Lily, and she mourns the loss of her husband, but she still wants Lily, and Lily is. Don't be absurd. Two women can't get married. In fact, there's a little duet where they at Gerda's wedding, they argue about this, and
She says,
Gerda says, "I wish I'd married you instead." Because Lily says, "You look so unhappy. It's your wedding day." She says, "I wish I'd married you instead." And she said, "Don't be." And Lily says, "Don't be ridiculous. Two women. How could two women marry?" That's one of my favorite lines in the opera. It's so funny today.
She's so traditional. Like, she's so convinced that, like, yeah, of course she can. She's a woman, right? Lily's like, yes, I am a woman.
Yeah.
But two women getting married, no, that's ridiculous.
Oh my.
So, like, from our current vantage point, it's like, I hope the audience can enjoy that and, like, get a little giggle out of it, because it's cute, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, Lily's frame of mind was, like, so different. And if she could have just, like, again, at that moment, just, like, paused a second, like, what if two women, what if we could just paint and be happy, you know?
So there's a painting session with Gerda. So how did you go about composing that very emotional moment?
And I would say that it is not exactly the moment of Lily's self-discovery. It's more I think it's more the moment that Gerda starts to realize that that Lily is Lily. In the opera, she's always been Lily.
Oh, okay.
But Gerda she comes to realize it over time when her model doesn't show up for her sitting. Gerda says to Lily, why don't you put on Anna's robe, because I just need to finish her legs and the portrait will be done. And she puts on the robe, and she's very comfortable in it. And she sings to Gerda, what do you see when you look at me now? And Gerda has this big aria, big soaring aria called "I See a Woman," and she says, I see a woman, a beautiful woman. I see a woman named Lily.
Wow. So it's more about Gerda's realization then. That's more of her moment.
I would say so at that moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that this moment is being looked at in another light, just like Tobias said. I think that this moment is a bit of Lily coming out to Gerda, and a little bit of Gerda being like, yeah, because right before that, Lily says, Gerda, would you call me Lily? She's like, yeah, I'll call you Lily. Sure, Lily. And then it's like, later on, she only realizes, like, oh no, this is for real. So, like, there's a whole story leading up to that moment. Yeah, I See a Woman is a beautiful, beautiful aria. I think it's probably the most beautiful aria in the piece. And it's also because there's this, like, beautiful realization of the two of them together, and it's before they start to drift apart.
So these are the words of the aria "I See a Woman" by R.A. Lev Stolman, my librettist. I see a woman, a beautiful woman. I see a woman named Lily. Look up, because she's posing for her. Turn your leg, look off to the side. Very pretty, truly very pretty. Can it be that you are still a man? You're the model of my dreams. I see a woman, a beautiful woman, etc. And then Lily responds, when you paint me now, I feel I have always been her. Yes, it's as if I have always been her. And then Gerda goes on, it is quite uncanny and theatrical. I have this sudden feeling as if the gods had begun to play games and changed me into Orpheus and made of Einar my wife. And then she says, look, I've let the paint fall from my brush. I want to paint her again and again. Don't stop, my dear Lily. And she goes on, turn your head, look up to the sky, very pretty. Can it be that you're still a man? And at the end she says, oh, Lily, if the gods had made you a woman, I would love you all the same.
That's wonderful, yeah.
It's the words are very inspiring musically.
Yeah.
And inspired. As I mentioned earlier, I've written 8 operas, but I think that's my best aria.
Why is that? Why do you think it's your best?
It's just the most lyrical soaring aria I've written.
Wow.
I have a great librettist.
That's wonderful.
When I came to New York, one of the many times I came to New York, I remember I was reading the very last scene. Before you, I'm not sure if you had written the end musically yet, but Arye gave me the words, and I just was bawling on the couch.
I had an experience when I finished the opera, and I made the double bar at the end. I burst into tears. Because she does die at the end. It's very sad. And they're declaring their love for each other, even though they've gone off their separate ways, and that basically their love will go on forever.
So why does Lily's story feel so important for each of you to tell now in this moment?
This story would have felt important for me to tell at any moment, because it's so dramatic, and it's dramatically true to life, and it resonates with everyone's experience. Not everyone is going to transition, but everyone goes through transitions in their life and transformations. So this story is not tied to this particular historical moment that it was written in. It happened to be written now, but it could have been written 50 years ago, 80 years ago. It could have been written in 150 years. It's one of those. It's just one of those. She gave us one of those great stories, and it's a great story for opera, and it's part of the tradition.
I think, yeah, it's always great to see stories of people whose lives are different than ours, so we can be reminded that, like, we just as you said, you know, we're all siblings, even if we have different trajectories of our life. You know, we live in different times, we live in different places, but if we can see the world through somebody else's lens, you know, I think it's great for our own understanding of our fellow humans.
The award-winning arts and culture series Colores is now available on the PBS app, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and at nmpbs.org. From classic episodes to brand new shows, Colores is everywhere. Watch now on your favorite NMPBS platforms.
Funding for Colores was provided in part by New Mexico PBS Great Southwestern Arts and Education Endowment Fund and the Nelita E. Walker Fund for KNME TV at the Albuquerque Community Foundation, McCune Charitable Foundation, New Mexico Arts, a division of the Department of Cultural Affairs, and by the National Endowment for the Arts. And viewers like you.